What is up, people? It's another edition, a week 6 edition of the Talking Ball podcast. My boy Faro, it's your boy Spongerelli. We're back in the building to talk some week 5 college football, and then the week 6 coming up here. So, like I say, we've had a pretty good couple back-to-back weekends, I would say, with some good games on the slate. So it kind of like picked us up from those first couple weeks where it was kind of lackluster. Obviously, the Canes and the Noles were on a bye week last week. So as far as our main trio of teams from the state of Florida, the only team that was on the docket last week, week 5, was the beautiful orange and blue Florida Gators.
The mighty Gators.
Going to Lexington, Kentucky to play the Mark Stoops program Wildcats. And the Gators got their ass kicked. That's all I can say about that. It was not pretty to start, not pretty in the middle, not pretty to end. It was just
not pretty.
Piss poor performance all around. As per usual, the way the Gators play on the road under Billy Napier has been pretty awful, to say the least. And, I've had a couple days, obviously, to digest what happened on Saturday. And, it's just offensively, we knew going into the season it was going to be a struggle. We knew we lost Anthony Richardson, baller quarterback who can do a lot of things, top 5 pick in the draft. So what was the offense going to look like with Graham Mertz at quarterback? You got 2 pretty good backs. The playmakers on the outside are kind of, questionable. You kind of lack that skill. How was the offensive line going to be losing some of those guys? Get 2 transfers in, and after 5 weeks of football, the offense sucks. That's straight up. Like it's been a disaster in my opinion. The mirage of what was Tennessee a couple weeks ago. Florida is what Florida is, and that's what you saw against Utah. That's what you saw against Kentucky. You can't take anything from those McNeese and Charlotte games. Hell, you can, because they played like crap against Charlotte as well on offense. So, I think the writing was on the wall that this was going to be a struggling offensive team. And, it kind of showed that heavily against Kentucky. And I guess the more glaring, before I ask you what you thought, the more glaring issue, what I thought hopefully we were going to be able to hang our hat on was how well at least the defense had played for the most part of the year. And they absolutely got steamrolled by Kentucky's ground game. I mean, my boy Ray was toting the rock for the Wildcats. I mean, he went slap off on them boys. And it was, like I said, it was just a ugly day offensively, ugly day defensively. I mean, when Ray Davis goes for 280 on you and 3 touchdowns, there's not much to say even about your defensive performance. It was just all around bad performance on the road. And like I say, it's just, I don't know where this team can improve, can get better. They got a lot to look at. And, luckily they're coming home again to, back home to where they play better and they get to at least play Vandy, the alleged worst team in the SEC. So I don't know if that's a recipe for getting right, but hopefully it is. But it was pretty bad last weekend in Lexington.
It was pretty bad. And then to touch point of the record, which you said, 2-17 on the road in the last 17 games. Billy's 1-7.
Yep.
So it's not just him, but I mean, do you know the 2 wins?
Yeah, it was one of them was, who the hell was it? No, I don't. Probably
Texas
Vandy.
A&M.
Yeah,
Nope.
Texas A&M last year. They beat
A&M in South Florida.
Yeah.
Those are your 2 wins.
No, that game was in Gainesville.
They played. I thought you guys did 2 for 1.
No.
Well, that's who I saw. It was South Florida, is what they said.
No,
so I could be wrong.
They played South Florida the year before with AR, and my boy Copeland got off in Tampa 2 years ago, and then last year was in Gainesville. We struggled, it looked like the damn Charlotte game.
Yeah. So
they stink on the road.
Yeah. You don't know what to do. I mean, as a coach, what do? You try. I guess you just try a different scenario of getting there earlier, getting there later. Whatever you're doing, do the opposite. But back to the game. The game was pretty bad. Yeah. They just did. The Kentucky offensive line did a great job against the what we thought would be a good front four for the rest of the year for the Gators, and the Gators couldn't get off of blocks. As the game progressed, their run fits got terrible. Like those linebackers were trying to shoot gaps. You could tell they were just being undisciplined because they knew I got to get by this guy and try to get back into the backfield, and it just didn't work. In Kentucky, like I say, they did a great job up front, running the ball. What was it? 280, like you said, he had 200 at the half.
Yeah, he really killed him after the first quarter. You know?
Well, we were texting back and forth during it. What's huge was the 3 and out, and you guys get them to punt, and then that stupid penalty on the shield, jumping over the shield, on the punt, and then next play you let them go 80-yard run. Yep. I'm not saying that was the difference in the game, but that was a huge momentum swing.
That completely, again, like you say, no game is won or lost on one play. It's like a sad part about it is in the game of football, there's a collection of about 4 to 6 plays where you go back and you're like, that was the one.
Yeah.
This was the one. And kind of like the Utah game, the whole double number thing. You're getting off the field, you're getting the ball back in decent field position. You're only down a score.
Special teams is special.
That's what I'm saying. So, and the thing that
I don't
really
mean that in a good way.
Well, here's the thing that really pisses me off too is I don't even know if you heard this or knew this. They actually asked the NCAA the rule on, hey, are we allowed to jump into that kind of shield?
It's weird because you see it a lot.
Well, I'm just saying Billy actually said this in the presser. They actually reached out to the NCAA and asked, can you jump up into the shield? Or you just have to wedge into it? What is the official ruling?
You have to jump straight up and down.
You can't even jump, really. They don't want you to jump at all. You have to just collide. And so, because if you jump, then they can kind of flip you up, and then you get the penalty. They actually knew that, and then they actually coached it up this week for that reason. So, it's like it wasn't like we didn't know that you couldn't jump up or jump into it. They actually knew it, and they coached it. So it's like, what are we doing?
What are we doing? It's like 6th grade coaching, roll the ball out. And,
no special teams coach, no offensive coordinator. Those two things have got to change for sure. Like
that's the only way. That's the only way he keeps his job.
100%. I'm on the train of you got to have an innovative offense now. You got to change it up. We're Florida. You got skill guys. You need to be dynamic in the offense.
Yeah.
Not this 3 yards in a cloud of dust, man.
The other thing we were talking about, because remember before the season, we were talking about Kentucky's offense, Devin Leary coming in. They're going to move the ball more through the air. And and we're watching the game, and you're just like, man, he can't hit the side of a barn.
Yeah. Well, we looked at it last week.
On top of that, they had a ton of drops, and you're like, if we could contain the run game, you're still in it. You're still in it.
That's the text I was talking to Gator Day before I left work today, and I was like, that's exactly what I text you guys. I'm like, all right, after all this is said and done, we get the score before the half. So we're like, all right, can we just get a stop and then get one more score in the third? And it's a 1-score game. We're back in it. No, we couldn't stop them all day. Like you alluded to earlier, watching the film breakdown again, early in the game, Armstrong had them in the right spots. It's just the guys on defense, Scooby Williams, Shamar James, freaking Jalen Kimber cannot tackle to save his effing life. 8 the corner, he's terrible. But
tell us how you really feel.
Regardless, like they didn't play well early in the game. They were, if you go back and watch the tape, they were in the right spots. They just didn't make the play. Early on. That first drive early down the field. And then we talked about it the week before, why I wasn't too high on Kentucky and why I thought the Gators could have success was I didn't think Devin Leary was very good. He hadn't shown it so far this year.
No.
And he didn't play. He didn't play well in that game. They didn't need him to, thank goodness. But
no,
for the most part, if the Gators could have just said, "All right, well, let's clamp down, let's try to shut this run game down and make Devin Leary throw balls downfield," they just never Leary didn't have to complete any balls.
What's crazy? The thing for me, looking back at it now, we're talking about it. If he does connect a lot of those passes, this game's worse than what it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hell, the guy dropped a touchdown on the first drive of the game.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if he threw 30 balls, 15 of them he missed, and the other 15 were drops.
Yeah, he threw it was another third down where he threw one where we kind of blew the coverage and he threw it behind the guy. That was the setup for the damn shield play. They didn't convert that third down. We got off the field and then we get the shield play.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, They house it on the very next play to make it a 16-0 ball game.
Well,
You know,
and then on the flip side, you guys not being able to run the football was just like,
look,
are you guys even trying to run the football? Like,
here's the thing. Going back and watching the film again, I watched the all 22, and Kentucky. You know, Stoops obviously he knows what the hell he's doing, so he's loading the box and basically saying, "Hey, Graham Mertz, hey Billy, beat us through the air. If you do that, we'll tip our cap to you and say, all right."
And they only rushed 4.
We actually, but they had 8-man boxes though.
Yeah,
if you go back and watch it, they had it. It was
they had the boxes full, but
it was definitely geared to take advantage of what the defense, like we say before, take advantage of what the defense is going to give you. And so what that means is you're going to have to take some shots. You're going to have to take some chances. They're playing man-to-man defense on you, you know. So what are you going to do? Is my guy better than your guy on the outside? And the sad part about it is Mertz, we've talked about his completion percentage and how good he's been.
It's the most overrated stat.
If you go back and look at the 5 or 6 that he missed, those were like the critical ones of like.
He only missed 5.
And they were huge. 2 of them were
25 for 30. He was
2 of them were touchdowns.
But going back to the completion percentage.
The first one to Caleb Douglas, he's wide open. He's running past the DB, lay it in there. I mean, it's not easy to do, but a lot of other quarterbacks around the country.
You're a scholarship quarterback at the University of Florida.
That should have been 6. So instead, you're flipping like Gators are up 7-0 in this thing, and they're throwing balls over the top. That's going to loosen up your coverage to where you are going to get a lighter box to where you can run the ball. The other problem has been third down has been dreadful. I'm talking about just flat out awful. I have zero confidence in the offense picking up first downs, especially
that pick wasn't his fault. The tight end has to catch that.
That's one of his other incompletions, and that basically set Kentucky up for their first touchdown.
Short field,
But basically on third down, they are dreadful. And the other part of the problem is their first and second down plays are not setting them up for success on third down.
No.
They are in. I looked it up. The stat was out of, I don't even know how many third downs they had last week, but however many third downs they had, they averaged 3rd and 9 on third down. You're not going to pick
third and long. You're not beating too many people.
You're not picking that up.
No.
Hell, the reason why the average was so much was because it was like 3rd and 18, 3rd and 15.
Yeah.
And what's happening there is Mertz is getting sacked. You know, a holding call, a false starts penalty. You know, all that adds up to where you're not setting yourself up to be successful. And then on top of that, I hate Billy's scheme and play design when it comes to the passing game sometimes. It's like you got max protect, 2-man routes that are taking too long. Then hell, you can't even protect when you're max protecting. You know, you're running your best receiver in motion all damn game. He ran 190,000 yards going back and forth with the not even faking the jet sweep. Just run Ricky back and forth, and forth. And you know, your all your routes are basically 2-man. You know, okay, can K-Jack or Caleb Douglas beat the guy, you know, in coverage downfield, but it's only 2 guys on routes and you can't protect nothing. So like it's the scheme, the style, it all sucks. You know, it's like it's terrible. And this is the one of the ones going back to the whole complicity of Florida on third down for the season. And this is not counting McNeese State. We're not going to throw them in there because they're awful. The Gators are 13 of 49 on third down.
I believe it.
And like I say, 36 of the third down conversions, you know how many of those were actually passes or had an incomplete pass on the 36?
How many?
6. Throw the effing ball, man. Like it's like Billy's scared to throw the ball. I mean, hell, if it's 3rd and 18, you're going to punt anyways. Throw it.
You gotta let it rip. You gotta let it rip. At some point, you gotta let it rip. And going back to Mertz, here's his completion percentages. Game 1, 70%. Game 2, 82%. Game 3, 79%. Game 4, 87%. And this past game, 83.3%. And I texted you guys and I told you guys, this is the most overrated stat. Because going into this game, if I told you Mertz was 25 of 30 for 244 yards, what would you say?
I would have been like, the Gators probably had a pretty good day, because then I would have thought they would have rushed for at least 150 plus. And then if you would have flipped that and told me Devin Leary's stats, I'd have been like, yeah, The Gators went on the
Yeah.
road and got a win.
Yeah.
That's what I would have said.
I wish
But
ESPN would stop pushing the completion percentage, because with the completion percentage, what is that telling me? What kind of passes are you throwing? Are
exactly.
they horizontal swings, bubbles,
That's
slip screens,
he hasn't
stop
thrown
routes right in
he
front of the
hasn't he's
quarterback?
completed. I guarantee you the stat we really need to go get somebody to look up is how many of those passes has completed. I mean, I know there's next gen stats and all these things that probably have this.
Yeah.
How many passes has he completed over 10 yards on the season?
Yeah, for sure.
It's
I
probably
could only
less
think.
than 10 is what I
Right.
would say.
The only ones I could think of in this past game was the touchdown to Pearsall at the end.
And the pass to Douglas right before the
Yeah.
half. Those
Other
are
than that, most of the completions were in the middle of the field, like turn and put your hands up, like we're eighth graders.
all Billy does is throw freaking hitch balls, man.
Yeah,
Go look at the tape. He
That's it.
loves the hitch. He
Yeah.
will literally sticks, run to the sticks, run to the
Yeah.
sticks, run to the
Which,
sticks. Like
I mean, against a good Kentucky defense, you can't do that because they're great tacklers. They're going to sit there like, we'll give it to you and tackle you.
Yeah, Stoops is definitely he's going to have you lined
Yeah.
up right. He's going to be able to put his guys in the best position to win, which they're good. And like I say, Zero on the damn D line was a freaking monster. He was eating
The
our
whole
lunch,
D line
man.
was.
Zero.
D-line.
I'm just saying Zero was a
Yeah.
effing problem. But
Yeah, once they got the lead and they knew you guys couldn't run the ball anymore, that front four was just getting off. And I was, what was it, 14, the defensive end, the guy with the 6 fingers or whatever?
Weaver. Yeah, Weaver's
Yeah,
a baller.
he was just, I was just sitting there like, but this goes back to our conversations and why I had the 15 question marks. Like, what is your identity as a team? Like, we thought the identity was a good, stout defense, but clearly that's not it. And clearly you can't win on the road.
That's what I'm saying. Definitely on the road is one. So now my thing is, was this a one-off? They just didn't tackle well on Saturday and just were out of position sometimes and just
they were out of position.
Is that stuff correctable? All that type of stuff. Yeah. You would hope that the defense, this is just a one game because they've been solid the first 4 weeks of the year. They played well. Yes, they had 2 cream puff games, but they were actually in the right spots. Armstrong. So what you're hoping is that was just a bad Saturday afternoon.
But you know what it is like from an offensive lineman perspective. It's if we continue to beat up on the smaller guys, like your linebackers and your secondary, those guys don't want to fit up with the big 300-pound linemen. No, they don't want to, play their right fits. They're like, it's time to duck, dive, guess, and get out of the way. Can I shoot to the backfield and get a big stop? And like I say, as the game went on, you start seeing the linebackers just shooting gaps, and you're like, dude, clearly you're out of your gap, and you're giving these big holes because it was just holes left and right the whole game.
Yeah, no, like I said,
the Kentucky line just did a great job, and they were physical, and they just beat up the front 7.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I say, going into the year, I had already heard the murmurs that our back 7. I won't count the linebackers, but our secondary, our safeties, piss poor tackling. Our corners, they suck at tackling. So
7-on-7.
If you don't get your front 4 to at least get that wedge wall, create the lane where your linebackers can come and fill, scrape, spill, all that. It's if they can't do that, and they're like you say, shooting gaps and trying to guess. That's where guess what you're going to get
undisciplined.
You're going to get
because if you're shooting the gap, the linebacker's shooting the A gap, and the safety's looking at the A gap. That's his gap control responsibility. Now you're both out of the wrong gap, and if they call the right play on offense and it's blocked right, it's an 80-yard touchdown.
Well, that was case in point on that play. But here's the sad part.
Exactly.
You actually had the unblocked edge player would have been Jason Marshall, your number 1 corner who's played terrible this year. I'm just saying it's like he took a terrible angle. You are the edge guy. You are the freaking you are my end on this side. You got to play that. He rushed upfield like he was going to go blitz because he didn't have any receiver responsibility.
Bad angles.
Like I say, then your linebacker. There was a questionable hold on that call, but I mean I'm not going to bitch about like penalties, but Scooby when he was coming to scrape across. He definitely got held on that play, but again, you can call holding on every play. You can call holding on a lot of it, but go back and watch
Jermaine. Go ask Jermaine Johnson about.
Apparently, their hands are inside on Jermaine Johnson. That's why they didn't call that one. But
okay,
73 for Kentucky was literally hugging Scooby on that play. But like I say, I digress. That wasn't going to stop him from beating Florida, but just like I say, so now the question is just, how do you bounce back? So, like I say, we'll get into the. I mean, I guess we could jump in. Well, we'll save the preview because we'll talk about some of the other games that we saw last weekend before we preview the homecoming Vanderbilt game. So like I say,
don't back down.
Yeah, don't back down, baby. But like I say, the other big game that obviously we got to talk about was the USC Trojans taking on the Colorado Buffaloes. How was Colorado going to respond after getting whacked by Oregon the previous week? How good is USC and Caleb Williams' offense? They've been good all year. The big question mark's been the USC defense and how they've played better throughout the season, early part of the year. They had that game against Arizona State where they just kind of sleptwalked and still scored 48, but just didn't look great. And, we know what Colorado's been doing all year. And watching the game initially, it looked like it was status quo of USC is going to run these boys out of the building, jumped out big, had no problem on offense in the first half. Caleb Williams was up and down the field. USC was up big. And then they kind of took the foot off the gas. Defense kind of broke down late. Colorado started making some plays in that second half and made it a little bit interesting. But I never felt threatened in the game like Colorado was going to come back and win. But it was nice to see the resolve of Colorado not just saying, hey, we're getting our ass kicked just like last week, and they just quit. But so what was your takeaway? Like, are you worried about USC? Did Colorado impress you more? Because obviously we always talk about 4 quarters. That was totally 2 halves of football. USC dominated the first half. Colorado, I wouldn't say dominated, but played really well in the second half to make it somewhat of a game. So I guess what was your biggest takeaway on who did what in that game?
First thing, 10 a.m. kickoffs are just dumb. They shouldn't do those kids like that. 10 a.m. I mean, I know it was probably 11 a.m. game for the Colorado kids, but for USC, it's like 9, 10 a.m.
9 a.m. really? Because
I mean, how do you get right to start a game like that? I mean, I get it. You have to do it, but it's one. That's the first thing. It's just dumb.
Apparently, by the way, I'll stop you real quick. Apparently, that was the Gators' problem too. They just weren't ready for 12 p.m. They'd played all those night games. Apparently, the first 4. I'm not lying. I forget what I think it was. Scooby said, I guess we just weren't awake at 12. So but go ahead. 9 a.m. is a whole different story. But
that's the point I'm making. That's a totally different story. That game, I thought, like you said, USC's offense came out clicking. Colorado, they couldn't get anything going. They made great adjustments at the half. I think offensively, they realized we have to run the football. They have to run the football, and they ended up with almost 200 yards rushing. I think they finished with 169. So it was great coaching.
193, yeah.
Was it 193?
Yeah.
So it was great adjustments at the half, and you could just tell, like you say, it was a weird second half because a couple of the throws Caleb had, the pick he threw, you could see he was kind of laughing like, dang, I shouldn't have thrown that. But at the same time, we're still in it. But they gave him momentum. And I think the problem, we always joke about USC's defense. If they want to win a national championship, they got to figure it out on defense, because I know people are going to say, oh, but who's going to stop their offense? But as you play better teams, the defenses are going to be better. So you could get stops, but at the same time, if you can't stop the other team, they're just going to keep putting points up. And I know you like to joke and say, well, you got to score 50 with them, but there are a couple teams in the Pac-12 that can score 50 and probably will score 50 with them because of that defense is that bad. The other thing that got me was, as much as I praised the coaching in the second half, that last drive for Colorado, you're kind of like, hey guys, you got to pick up the tempo here because you got to score twice. You're down two scores. And they was just taking their time, moving down the field methodically, like they had the lead. And I believe if they had another opportunity, they could have tied the game up. Like I say, Shador, once again, he impressed me. He battled
he was lights
back.
out.
He was lights out. And then the kid Miller, who had 0 catches.
Amarion Miller had no catches on the year, came out of slap nowhere and was like,
no one talked about him because we were talking about Weaver and Horn.
Yeah, he hadn't even gotten on the field yet. And then I guess, they said, you know what, we got to get this guy out there. I mean, 7 catches for 196, and a touchdown.
They could not stop him.
He looked great. Like I say, I mean, he's a 4-star kid out of Louisiana. So if you add that to the mixture, that's just going to help that offense even more. I thought again, I never thought USC was in doubt, and it was almost like, sometimes I think they just toy with people, it seems like, because offensively early in that game, it was just like they couldn't
Get off the
stop
sticks.
SC.
Get
Yeah,
off
it
the
was.
sticks.
I mean, when it was 34-7, it was just like, here we go again.
Yeah.
This thing's and now I think what was big was the fact that Colorado at least made it scored a touchdown right before the half to make it at least 34-14. So you're like thinking, okay, but
Yeah.
then SC came right back out and scored on the very first drive, the second drive of the second half, and it kind of like had a huge lead, and then that's where Colorado kind of found itself, got the turnover. USC only ran a couple plays. It was like they got like a 3 and out, then he threw the pick, and so then it got a little hairy, but it was never like I always felt like USC could be like, okay, let's flex our muscle and do whatever. But to your point, I like what I say is when you're playing USC, yeah, you got to score 50. Now, granted, there's some other teams that we're talking about as capable, Washington, Oregon, some of these teams, so we'll see how their defenses progress to be. Can they stop USC to make it a 51-50 game or something, but I'm still going to ride with the Trojans. I've Lincoln Riley in that offense with Caleb Williams is lights out. Again, this is kind of like going back to the Gators, like defensively, is this a one-off because they've been pretty solid, or is this more of the same where Alex Grinch's defense is going to rear its head and they're going to give up a lot of yards? And
here's the thing, Sponge. As much as you score points, at some point during the season or in the playoff, you got to stop someone, and someone will be capable to stop you.
Definitely.
And as great as Caleb Williams has looked, and the offense has looked, and those receivers and those weapons, at some point they're going to get into a game where it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, case in point, Utah 2 years last.
And the offense isn't clicking, but at the same time, we're going to need the defense. You have games where one phase is going to have to win the game, special teams, offense, or defense. And I just at what point will we see where the U.S. offense will be challenged and the defense has to step up, and will they step up? And then on the flip side of it, if you're Colorado, if you're
You there, buddy? I lost you. 27:58. You glitched out on me there, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I saw it. But back to what I was saying, it was just with Colorado. I mean, if you look at their next 7 games, they could win 3 to 4 of those next 7 games.
Yeah, no,
and
for sure.
And they could get in a bowl. And if you're Dion, that's what you want, because at the same time, as much as we're praising USC's offense and playing the rest of the Pac-12, for Colorado, are those 7 teams that they play that are not Oregon and Washington, are they going to be able to stop that offense with Shedeur and those receivers?
This will be a nice test for where Colorado's at this week against Arizona State. Yeah, Dillingham's, he's brand new to the program out there. I think he's going to do a good job.
For sure.
My thing, here's the interesting part. You got to go on the road. So let's just see how like Colorado goes on the road against a team they should beat. Everybody's expecting them to beat. Everybody's expecting what they saw in week 1, 2, and 3 when they were the favorite. So where do they go from there? And you're like, does this offense travel? Will it? And you say now the expectation is back on you to win. So
for sure.
And then the next game, Stanford's terrible, so they should beat them. The next 2 will be interesting because you got to go back on the road to UCLA, and then you're finally playing a team like Oregon State who can score and play D, before you get to the back end of that schedule. So these next 3 games are very interesting. 2 road games. 2 of the games you should be favored in to beat. UCLA on the road, I don't know. I think UCLA probably favored on the road in that one, or at home in that one. But where does Colorado go? How do you bounce back from 2 tough games, 2 losses? One where you get
2
blown
tough
out.
losses where no one thought you would win.
Yeah, nobody was picking them to win those games.
No one's picking them to win.
The lines were 3 touchdown.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why if you're the coaching staff, you take a lot of positives out of this USC game, and you're like, we went toe to toe with a top 10 team.
Yeah.
And we were able to slow them down in the second half, because I think they scored only maybe 2 more touchdowns in the second half. So they were able to slow them down enough to get it a game. So if you're going into these other games, you just got to keep the kids focused and just say, hey, let's just go out there and play and throw all our chips in, and we could get bowl eligible. All they need is 3 more wins.
Yeah, no, I definitely think they're going to. I think they're
like
definitely
you say, you want to think they could beat Stanford. So then you got to get 2 more somewhere.
Yeah,
and that's, to me, that's the goal. My thing is like, you're not winning 5 or 7. I mean, it can happen. It can, but the goal is he's not going to say it out loud. But let's get a bowl game and get bowl eligible.
Yeah, no, like I say, because the last 4 games on that schedule look tough. Oregon State looks pretty good right now. Arizona's playing kind of scrappy ball. I want to see where Arizona's at. That's like November 11th when they play Arizona. So that's a long way away.
That game against Washington, they did a great job slowing that Washington offense down.
Yeah. So the problem, they did. And the problem, so is if you win these next 2, that back half, UCLA, Oregon State, Arizona, then 2 back-to-back road games against Wazoo and Utah. Like I said, that's where it's going to be. Can you get to 6? So
yeah.
It'll be
tough.
It's
tough
gonna be
for
something.
Everyone.
It's something that's gonna be fun and good to watch, and that's the good part about it. So I think the most wild game Saturday and probably the most entertaining was that Ole Miss LSU game. Man, I mean, it was up and down, high flying, high scoring, 0 defense.
They should have took both lines of scrimmage off the field and just said, "Hey, we're playing 7-on-7."
Big offense, and now
that LSU secondary,
LSU Bengal Tigers
garbage
in September. Are they out of the SEC race? Are they out of the national title picture? All that stuff.
They're out of the national title picture.
Has Brian Kelly wasted a quarterback in Jaden Daniels, this season? And where do they go from here? Because I said this. You can go back. We can go back to listen. I said after that Florida State game, I was like, LSU's done. I think they're.
Yeah, I felt like they still had enough in the tank
offensively. Right. And that's here's
I
the
didn't
thing,
think the secondary was that bad.
Their defense is 116th in the country. It's dreadful.
I was watching Ole Miss guys. There were like 10, 15 yards wide open, and it was just like. But at the same time, you're like, Lane, where was this the other week in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah,
like I get it. It's 2 totally different defenses, and you're playing against Nick. But at the same time, it's like these guys were wide ass open the whole game, and I'm just sitting
for sure.
Like I got tired of watching it.
Yeah, Jackson. I know. It was kind of ridiculous. Jackson Dart was on fire. He lit it up. I mean, he was big time in that game. It was
7-on-7 with pads.
Jaden Daniels played great in the game offensively. When you think of what you do on offense to where your quarterback is throws for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Hell. They even
concussion.
Jaden Daniels he got laid out. Jaden Daniels had 99 yards rushing. They rushed for 223 in the game, but Jackson Dart was, just as good. He threw for 389 and 4 touchdowns. So they basically matched each other. And then Judkins got back to toting the rock, man. They couldn't stop him either, so
he had over 100. We were texting at the end of the game that, hey, turn it on, because I think that was the same Notre Dame Duke game. And that last drive where we all think the game's over, and then LSU's just driving down the field, and they got in range to get the touchdown to possibly win it. They got a heave at the end zone from the 30, I think it was.
Yeah.
So they had an opportunity, but it was just a dreadful game to really sit there and watch. Like, if you like offense, that was your game to watch. But other than that, sit the big boys down and just have fun.
Here's the other thing too. Talking about LSU and are they done and all that stuff. You got a tough game against a hot Missouri team this week, which on the road, which letdown city is on this one. You basically just lost your second game. Noon kickoff, going to Columbia, Missouri. Missouri's playing good. Missouri wants to knock you off too, kick a wounded dog. Then you still got to play Bama and Texas A&M. So like I say, I don't think LSU.
Oh yeah, they might be done. They might be done.
I think they're gonna lose a couple more, to be honest with you.
But that's a microcosm of the SEC in general. Like, who's the big dog of the SEC?
Yeah.
Where you feel the last 15, 20 years, you knew like, hey, we got
Geor-
two
yeah,
big ones.
Georgia, Bama, and it
Even
was considered.
LSU
Yeah, you put
for a
LSU in
couple of
that too.
years. But,
No, for the last decade, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
but this year, who is that team? Because even the wheels are squeaking at Georgia.
Yeah, no, everybody's talking about this Georgia team is not good. They're overrated, and like I say,
I wouldn't say overrated and not good. It's just what happens when attrition comes, when you just lose a ton of
yeah,
NFL talent.
yeah.
It's happening to everyone.
Nobody's saying they're overrated, but everybody's like they're not as good as everybody's thinking they are. They're not the number one team in
Well,
the country. That's what
I
we've
mean,
been hearing a
half
lot
their
of.
defense for the last 2 seasons plays for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, they're in the NFL, and you lose your quarterback, you lose some offensive
Yeah.
linemen, skill guys, all that stuff. So
Transfers, guys leaving in the portal, like a AD
definitely,
Mitchell. That AD Mitchell at Georgia is huge this year.
yeah. Well, like I say, the other big game Saturday night was that Notre Dame at Duke game. College game day was there. Great atmosphere. The Dukies were playing well. Looked like Duke was in control, kind of. Duke, had the lead.
No,
And
ND had the lead.
yeah, well, yeah, Duke came back. And what I'm saying
Yeah.
is Notre Dame had the lead early. Duke came back. And then
Yeah.
basically Duke was sitting there looking like they were going to win the game. And it was like, okay, Notre Dame, here's your shot. And like I say, that we shared it, the social media team and the Notre
If you
Dame
haven't
side of
watched
things.
That,
It was pretty sick. It was pretty slick. They
you
added
gotta
a whole
watch
new
that, guys.
they added a
It
whole
was
new
pretty good.
element. They added a whole new element to the cinematic photography of a breakdown of a game with the coach's headset and the play calls and all that stuff. But it was Sam Hartman, man, just dug in, made some big throws, made the big run on fourth down. Then Estime had the big run for the touchdown, and like I say, Notre Dame came out victorious in a fighter grinder
slugfest.
Exactly. It was a hell of a game. I think Duke showed me something that Duke's pretty good this year. Now, having Riley Leonard get hurt there on that last drive of the game, I know it's supposed to be maybe a high ankle and he's not out for the year or anything, but that's definitely going to give them a little bit of a setback as they move on. I think part of what showed me in that game was, everybody was talking about how good he was at quarterback and this, that, and the other first round. I didn't see that because he didn't overwhelm me throwing the ball. And I know he's been, mobile, but he didn't necessarily.
He reminds me of Daniel Jones.
And that's bad. That's a bad comparison. So
Daniel Jones when he was at Duke.
Yeah, I'm not fully on the Riley Leonard as a legit first round quarterback type of guy. I mean, I think he's a good college quarterback, but hell, Notre Dame held him in check for the most part.
Yeah.
Everybody's been kind of like a Sam Hartman having a down year. No, Sam Hartman, like Notre Dame's played some tough teams. They played some good defenses, and they almost found a way to win at home against Ohio State.
I don't think they're skill guys. I don't think their skill guys as good as they should be with Sam Hartman.
Yeah, he's hitting those tight ends, man. The tight ends are their
that was it.
And then really and truly, Estime has been unbelievable
until
in the
this
backfield. Well, still ended with 81. He had the big touchdown run, but I think he has
the touchdown run was the 40 yards.
I want to say I heard the stat. He has more explosive runs than like 4 teams combined or something. And it was like Florida, Penn State, somebody else. And like he's got like 4, he's got multiple runs of like 20 plus to where he's, got the big home run hitters. But, for the most part, Notre Dame looks pretty good. We'll see. They've got a tough, slate with some games coming up down the stretch that it'll be interesting to see. Hell, they got a tough on Saturday night. Everybody's calling upset city after you had these back-to-back games. Having to go on the road to Louisville Saturday will be definitely a one to watch, an interesting one on Saturday.
I thought Duke's defense did a great job of stopping Estime. Because I was like, up until that run for the touchdown, he only had like 40, 50 yards. So they controlled the line of scrimmage. Their defense took away their skill guys other than tight ends, and they got pressure on Hartman, and they were hitting him. But I started to notice the last 2 weeks, the Notre Dame offensive line and pass protection isn't that great. I mean, they're good, but Hartman's been taking some hits. And like I said, they had that early lead, that Duke offense. Without Riley Leonard, it's not going to be – I don't know. They're going to lose a couple games if he misses 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, because he was the offense. I think he almost had 100 yards rushing. He had 190-something yards passing, I believe it was. So he is their offense.
Yeah, like I say,
So
I mean, how much of a good recipe was that for Florida State? You know, that's who they play in 2 weeks. You know, so or 3 weeks. There's a bye week in between there,
yeah.
but they play NC State and Florida State. That's Duke's next 2 games. You know, so if
Mm-hmm.
can Riley Leonard get healthy by October 21st when they play Florida State? That'll be a question mark. Because if not, then that's like easy win for the Noles, in my opinion. But like I say, we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. But you know, I thought Duke. I put it this way: it's nice to see a new team, you know, be in the top 25.
Yeah.
Have a great environment and all that type of stuff. And like I say, Duke has a big win, obviously, against Clemson this year.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have an opportunity to go back and watch that video that the Duke social team put out, like you said, it was great just to hear the offensive coordinator, his thoughts, his play calling that last drive and saying, hey, this is what we need to do. And we got to pick this up. And even on the 2-point conversion where he's telling them like, hey, tell the back, he's got to scrape out a little bit, cheat out a little bit more to get that edge. So Hartman could roll out to the right, you know, and give him more time. So that was pretty cool to see. You know, I mean, all these social teams are doing fantastic jobs. I mean, the one from the other week with Ohio State after the big win at Notre Dame, and even the Oregon video after the Colorado game was pretty good. So you got to give these social teams a great shout out, especially it's just a good recruiting tool on top of that, and a inside look to what these guys are going through and what they do on Saturdays or through the week.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, well, that's enough of the week 5 reacts and breakdown. Let's hop in. Let's get on into the games this week. Obviously, all 3 of the Florida teams are back in action. We'll touch quickly on the Gators homecoming, 18.5-point favorites against Vandy, the worst team in the SEC. Can the Gators rebound? Can the Gators get some offense going? Can the Gators get a freaking win just to get back on the winning side before they hit the road to South Carolina next week? So I think they get it done. I think they figure it out. You know, I don't know if they won by 3 touchdowns, but you know, defense should come back and play better at home. Offense should come back and play better at home. You know, Vandy doesn't really scare you too much offensively. Hell, their best player last year is the guy who just ran all over us at Kentucky. So that's a good thing. You know, so that I feel like Florida offensively, like let's see some different things. Let's not hold anything back. Air it out, throw it up and down the field, like open it up a little bit. You know, let's loosen some boxes. You know, let's be able to run and pass. Let's be able to be multiple.
Screw completion percentage and just take shots.
That's what I'm saying, man. Throw the ball downfield. I said it last week. Throw the ball downfield. Take some shots. Open it up. And the good part is, me and Dave, like I say, we were talking before I left work today, and the only recipe that's good right now, looking forward to the rest of the season for Florida, is we looked at it. The remaining games, teams that we're playing defensively are trash, except for Georgia, and actually Missouri's fairly ranked.
I don't want to hear it. You were 2-17 on the road, and you got to go to both Columbias.
I agree.
How about you worry about this week? Don't worry about going to the Columbia, South Carolina.
I agree.
Worry about beating Vandy. I think y'all are going to beat Vandy, but worry about Vandy. Don't worry about South Carolina and then your boy, your favorite quarterback with Spencer
Rattler. Yeah, like I say,
I get Gator fans are like, oh, we could go to South Carolina and win. Damn it, you just lost in Lexington.
Yeah.
Worry about this week. Don't worry about next week.
You're right. Who's the better team, like South Carolina or Kentucky? That's the big question.
Because next week, and we're talking on this podcast.
Exactly. If the Gators win, if the Gators win 100-0 Saturday, it's not going to tell me anything. Can they beat Carolina on the road?
But if you guys lose, I don't want to hear anything about looking ahead to this team and that team.
Of course. That's you never want to look ahead. The only positive I'll take is looking at some of these defenses that we get to face after Vandy, is the only silver lining of what I've got going on right now. Because it's like, where are we going to get a win beyond this weekend? And
almost basketball season.
It looks, and that shit sucks too. It's worse than the football team. So
I guess we got gymnastics and baseball season coming up.
That's too far down the line. That's summertime, baby. Summertime.
I get it, but my thing is, it's just if you're Billy, you just focus in on this week. You don't worry about next week. I
of
get
course
it.
not.
It's a team
That's
that you're
not
supposed to beat.
that's for them to concentrate on. That's for me to talk about. I'm
I
looking
know.
for,
I think you
in
should
the
be looking ahead either.
I'm not in the locker room and coaching up
Yeah.
Graham Mertz. Like, don't listen to me. I'm just saying for myself and as Gator fan perspective of being like,
Just win
all
this
right,
week.
what do we have looking forward to after this? Is there any glimmer of hope? Is there any shot to even keep paying attention to this team? Or are they going to do what they've typically done?
Won't
Go
back
out
down at
and,
home.
and put up a number at home and win easily, and then you're like, all right, cool. Get all this.
But
hope.
outside of the Tennessee game, has it been easy?
Yeah, no, like I said, you can't. McNeese and Charlotte don't even count.
But it wasn't easy against Charlotte.
I mean, I never was in doubt in that game. They moved the ball up and down the field and settled for 5 field goals, which was pathetic. And then the Tennessee game, in my sense, it was a mirage, man. The first half was like fool's gold, and
You
then
got the lead and just
what did
milk the
Billy
hell
do?
out of
He
it.
went. That's the only way the Gators can. You got to be front runners. You can't play from behind. You can't do your offense. Totally changes when you get down 10.
I wish this game was in Nashville.
Right? We'd probably we lost last year in Nashville.
I wish it was in Nashville.
So that the good part is it's not. I think we'll win, but like I say, I don't have much to look forward to right now.
Yeah. How do you
this
bounce
team
back?
until they have to, like, it's kind of like what we said all along.
Mm-hmm.
You got to show me that you can win on the road. You didn't do it at Utah. You didn't do it at Kentucky, where we thought, hey, you might have found something
this week.
I'm talking about the past. I'm talking about the past right now.
But I'm talking about the future. Let's worry
about
this week.
I'm not going into the future anymore. You already scolded me on looking forward. So I'm going backwards saying, hell, we already showed that we haven't won on the road. So we didn't win at Utah. We didn't win at Kentucky when we thought we might have found something at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Win this one, figure it out.
Don't let Will Shepard or whatever his name is, the receiver for Vandy. Don't let him get off. He's pretty good.
Yeah, hopefully.
He plays at Vandy, but he's still pretty good.
Yeah, hopefully, Mr. Jason Marshall can get his head out of his ass and cover people and tackle people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
don't know. Like I say, it's just we suck, so it's all good.
I think Florida, like you say, Florida's going to win. I don't know about that 18.5. Could you guys cover that? I think they can, but like you said, they got to show me first. So on to the next one.
Yeah, who cares? F the Gators, they suck.
Take that hat off.
I know I wasn't going to wear it, but Ricky made me, so that's why I put the black one on for the funeral Gator look. I was gonna put my hard hat on, but it wouldn't fit over my headphones, So I was gonna wear my Virginia Tech Isaiah Ford hat just for the reason of Virginia Tech playing Florida State, but Virginia Tech is god awful. Isaiah Ford's not walking through the door like
Michael Vick's not, or Marcus.
Yeah, none of these guys. Virginia Tech is slap awful. They've been terrible all year, and I think Florida State puts a number on them. And like I say, this game's not even close in my opinion. I think they will cover the 24. They're at home. They had to bye. Florida State, getting back in the groove of things after the big Clemson win. Like I say, Virginia Tech's just they don't do anything for me at all, man. They've been. I mean, they lost to their wins are against Old Dominion, and they beat Pitt. I guess maybe they took some from Pitt, but Pitt's been struggling as well too. So,
going into this week is coming off a bye week. Health. How's Jordan Travis's health? How's Akeem Dent's health? Those big guys you're going to need down the stretch because it's go time from here on out after the bye week for the most part. Can they get that running game going? I think they're going to need that running game to win a national championship. Can they do it? I think we both agree they can do it, but they haven't done it in the last couple of weeks, especially in the Clemson game. So can they get Trey Benson going? Any one of those guys, Tia Foley, the other kid, but I think you want to get Benson going. Like you say, just coming off a bye week, how do you respond coming off a bye week at home? It's going to be the key. My same sentiments about Miami. How do you come off a bye week? Do you look at this game and say, "Oh, it's Vatek, we're going to beat them. Let's go ahead and start looking ahead to next week"? But I don't think so. I think Mike has those boys ready to go, and they should blow out Virginia Tech.
Like I say, you're at home too, so you're back at home. It's not like you got to go to Lane. You're not going to Lane playing a night game or something where, okay, maybe they'll be hyped up early, and then you got to kind of weather that storm. It's just this Virginia Tech team has been completely uninspiring. Like I said, I feel like Florida State. what was good was when you have a huge win like that against the Clemson,
And then you get a bye week.
well, it's normally that next week, you might have a letdown. And if you're playing a team who
Mhm.
can sneak up on you, then all of a sudden you're in a dogfight. Well, guess what?
Exactly.
They got the week off to kind of like say, hey, you're not that good anymore. You guys didn't do this. Let's look at the tape. If we wouldn't have got that sack on Klubnik, the fumble, if they would have hit the field goal, we might have lost that game. So what did we
Yeah.
do to clean up all that stuff? You
Yeah.
didn't have that.
Self-scout.
You didn't have that quick turnaround letdown game.
Yeah.
You get the bye week. So like I say, I think Florida State cruises in this one
Mhm.
and easily win. Kind of like same thing I feel about you guys. I think Georgia Tech, I think, is a better team than Virginia Tech. But being at home, same thing. Coming off of a bye, you kind of lick your wounds, get some guys healthy, clean up whatever needed to be cleaned up. Like I say, Georgia Tech, they've been okay, but they haven't been great either. They've kind of struggled the last 2 seasons in a sense. Their only wins were against South Carolina State, and they beat Wake 2 weeks ago. And their other opponents, they got whacked by Ole Miss, they got beat by Bowling Green, and they lost week 1 to Louisville. So Haynes King's been nice for them, but like I said, I just don't. I'm not a buyer right now. What Georgia Tech's got going on, and like I say, I feel like Van Dyke and the boys. I feel like that offense is rolling, and I think it'll just continue to do the same thing Saturday.
Going into coming off a bye week once again, the last several years for Miami hasn't been great. Coming off a bye week, I think they're going to be okay. With the other crazy thing, did you know that Miami's the last team to not play a conference game in the country?
This is their first
This is
ACC
their
game.
first conference. This is their
True.
first
Yeah,
conference
because they
game.
had Temple and BCC and
And
Texas A&M.
Yeah. So this is their first conference game. How do you come out for a first conference game after a bye week, 8 p.m., wearing all black, baby? We're wearing the Miami Knights breakout. You get Cam Kitchens back, which is great. Arroyo might be back. So there's a couple guys concerned. Matt Lee at center. Will he play? Mario's keeping that close. Mario, also Henry Parrish, will he play? Because both of those guys got dinged up at the end of the Temple game. I think they should play. It looked like Matt Lee probably had an ankle sprain or whatever. You're playing against one of the worst run defenses in the country. They're 128 out of 130.
Yeah.
The only thing, and we have the 9th rushing offense in the country. The only thing that may be concerning a little bit is they demoted their defensive coordinator and they elevated another guy with some experience. So you're just not going to know what kind of scheme. You can't really change the scheme in the middle of the season,
Right.
but you can change your calls and how you do things and change, tweak things here and there. So I think going into this game, that's the only concern is how do the Shannon Dawson and the offense kind of figure out what they're doing on defense, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. No,
So
I think like you said, if you just said it, they're terrible at stopping the run. So pound it on them, create some open lanes, hit some shots downfield, and like I say, that's a recipe for that style and type. If you can get that ground game going early,
for sure,
you can start some play action, take some shots with Tyler Van Dyke with those wide receivers down the field, which I think they can do. And Van Dyke's been on fire to start the season. Like I say, Miami is, they haven't played since that A&M game, and it feels like it's the way the season game goes. It goes by forever. It's just like, man, they haven't played that game in like 3 weeks, and so like you want to see them play against somebody else to just put another number up and just because you're trying to look at that ACC and we've been talking about Florida State's looks like they're in a driver's seat and not looking too far ahead. Like you're like, man, this Florida State Miami game could be something special down the line. And
worried about Georgia Tech.
Exactly, beat Georgia Tech. I'm a fan, so I want to talk about Florida State Miami, but no,
I know. Well, the back end, we're gonna get tested on the back end because
I was about to say you got to play Carolina and all that stuff. So
no. I meant this weekend. Our secondary is going to be tested because Tech's going to want to throw the ball. But it's great having Cam Kitchens back, who had 3 picks against them last year.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see the secondary because the secondary hasn't really been tested this season, which is a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that means your front 4 or your front 7 is doing a great job of getting to the quarterback. But then the bad side is like, all right, can our corners cover and all of that? Right. So we'll see. Like I said, I think Miami's going to win. The 21, I don't know about the 20. I could see them winning by like 15, 17, somewhere around there.
I got
both.
Canes and Knowles cover, baby.
I know you do, but yeah, I think they're going to win. It's probably going to be a slow start, trying to figure out what they're doing on defense a little bit. Tyler may get a little confused, but I think how Shannon Dawson runs his offense, he really doesn't worry about that. It's kind of we take advantage of what we do, so we'll see. Miami wins.
Yeah, Miami wins. Miami wins.
Get that first ACC win. That's all I care about. Get the W.
For sure. Red River shootout, Red River rivalry.
Yes, sir.
It's here, baby. The Cotton Bowl. The good Oklahoma, Texas in Dallas. I love this matchup. You know, Texas has been red hot. They've been
steamrolling. They've been steamrolling on offense.
Had the big win, obviously, in Tuscaloosa earlier in the year. You know, this is a lot of people's first time really probably looking at Oklahoma, and they're like, okay, how good is Oklahoma? They're a top 15 team. You know, they've been scoring a lot of points. They've been dominating. They had a couple lazy games where they beat Cincinnati by not so much. You know, Dylan Gabriel's played pretty good at quarterback. You know, so where does this one set up? Who has the advantages? Who has the where do you see basically Texas steamrolling this game like they've been doing, or do you think Oklahoma gives them a game? What's your takeaway?
Well, first thing, this is the first time both teams have come in undefeated since 2011.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while because this has been one of the better rivalry games throughout the years. I mean, 2 years ago,
even when the teams aren't very good, aren't very good, the game has been pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, remember the game 2 years ago when Caleb Williams came in for Spencer Rattler?
Yeah,
and was dropping dimes left and right.
Yeah,
that was a hell of a game.
Like I said, there've been some good games, and there, you know, even this is one where
you throw the records out the window.
Right. Both teams. The good part about this one is, like you just said, both teams are undefeated, and this is the first time it actually kind of like has some good meaning to it. And hell, this is the last time it's going to be a Big 12 matchup, because going forward it'll be an SEC game. So that's an interesting counterpart to it. But like I say, I like Texas. So who do you like and why?
I like Texas because they're able to run the football. Like you said, we really don't know much about OU. OU, they beat the teams they were supposed to beat. But I think Texas is with the pedigree of coming in after beating Alabama and beating a decent Kansas team last week, and they did it convincingly. And I think that offense is just, like I say, they're on a tear right now because they can run the football and drop it over your head. So we'll get to see. But Dylan Gabriel at quarterback for OU might be able to make it a game. But I don't think OU could just slow down that Texas running game unless they just sell out and Ewers just makes mistakes. But other than that, I think they just have too many weapons. They just
Now the big one is the tight end's kind of banged up. He's questionable, Jatavion for Texas. So that'll be an interesting thing to look at. But A.D. Mitchell and some of those other guys, I think the biggest thing in my opinion is Texas now under Sark has, you know, obviously recruited well, hit the portal well. He has the fronts and the trenches like an SEC style team. They've got a good offensive line. They've got a nasty D line. They get after it on defense. That's where I think the difference is than your traditional Big 12 type teams. And then, you know, like you said, they're able to establish the run. Sark wants to run it. You know, you think sometimes you think at Bama when he was there, even at Washington and USC when he was the coach out there.
200 yards last week or close to it.
No, like I say, they're very balanced is what's good about Texas. I mean, obviously it's a big deal. They got freaking one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Quinn Ewers can really throw it. So the balance that they have where they can, you know, say, all right, if you're shutting our run game down, I've got confidence in my quarterback completing balls downfield, you know, converting on third down. You know, yes, Oklahoma and Gabriel and that passing offense has looked really damn good. They're averaging like 350 a game passing. They're able to run it for, you know, clip about 150. But I feel like
anybody with a pulse.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like at least Texas has already played, you know, Wyoming, who was a tough game on the road. They played, you know, Bama and Tuscaloosa. They played Kansas last week, who's been a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
I think, in all honesty, really, I think Texas puts a number on Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's kind of overrated. I think they're kind of like fool's gold. They won 6 games last year. How much did they really flip that team from last year to this year? We'll find out. You know, I could be wrong, but I like Texas in this game.
I like Texas too. I like them to cover. I like them to cover as well.
Like I say, I think they're going to win big. I think Texas is going to be. I think we're going to turn on and be like, damn, Texas is thumping these boys.
Yeah.
Now maybe OU makes a run, you know, later in the game to make it a little closer. but I still think Texas covers. I think Texas has another big statement win.
Is this your LeBron lock of the week?
It's my LeBron lock of the week, baby. Did you see LeBron taking credit for his NFL? Like, plus he wasn't going.
He was 11-2.
Here's the thing, though,
or 11-2 or 11-3.
He was 11-2, but
yeah.
Last week, I think I was like 11-2 against just money line straight up. Like, you know, pick against the spread, LeBron. Let's make it interesting. You know,
that'd be fun to see. But he's not allowed to talk about gambling. He's in the NBA. He shouldn't.
True.
He's picking games, but he shouldn't be talking about the spread and all of that.
Yeah, he's going to be. We're going to have a damn NFL, NBA investigation.
We don't want that. We don't want that.
So obviously, both of us like the hook 'em horns in the Red River rivalry, and like I say, I think Texas puts a number on them. So we'll see what happens at noon on Saturday afternoon.
Yep.
The other big one is the Alabama Crimson Tide going on the road to Kyle Field and College Station against Texas A&M, and this is an interesting matchup.
Intriguing game.
I've seen definitely. I've seen a lot of people, still kind of writing off Bama and saying Texas A&M is going to win this one. Texas A&M being at home. Obviously, Connor Wigman's gone for the year. But guess what? You got a good quality backup and a guy who's played a lot of football in the SEC.
Yeah.
Max Johnson's been around, and so they got to still feel confident in the offense. They played pretty good last week against Arkansas. Bama, it's kind of, I think, found themselves after the loss on the, at home against Texas. And then they had that debacle game down in Tampa against South Florida. And then, hell, you look at obviously Ole Miss last week. We talked about how they just scored, 55 points.
Mm-hmm.
Bama checked that shit to 10, 24-10 2 weeks ago. So did Bama find something? And then Bama pretty much thumped Mississippi State. So I feel like I like Bama in this game because I think Milrose kind of coming along. I think Bama slowly, getting their sea legs back, getting something under them. I think definitely going on the road. This game's always been good too. It's always been tight. It's always been kind of wacky. Bama's kind of struggled at Texas A&M too. So if A&M can play and get the offense rolling with Max Johnson, I think definitely A&M is going to be in this game. And I think it's going to be a hell of a game. But I think I like Bama in this one, in a tight one.
Yeah, I think so. Two things. Well, one thing, their strengths. Bama wants to run the ball. I think they didn't throw any passes in the first quarter last week.
Against Mississippi State.
Against Mississippi State, which was telling me, Nick's like, we're going to run the football. And then on the flip side of that, Texas A&M's strength is their run defense. Because I don't think they've given up any rushing touchdowns outside of the Miami game, maybe one so far this season.
And you guys pretty much lit it up through the air on them too. So
we were able to get a balance of both things against them. So their run defense is, you got 5 stars at every position on the defensive line. So you better be good. So that's what I'm intrigued to see is, can Bama make enough plays in the passing game? Because I think Texas A&M is going to load up the box and say, we're going to stop that QB run game. And we're going to stop your run game, period. So I still think Bama may win. It may sneak it out, but I wouldn't be surprised if A&M doesn't pull it out. Because I just think Bama, you got to throw the ball enough to still win.
Yeah, Milrose got to complete some balls. We obviously know he can throw a good deep ball, but can he hit those intermediate plays? Can he convert on those 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 10s, to make a big throw down the field or just a big completion to extend a drive? Those are where Milrose got to get better at that. I think, like I say, going back to it too, I feel like Nick has finally gotten into a groove with the guys on defense. They've been getting after it, going back to, Texas, kind of hit them in the mouth and, in the run game, and they lit them up over the top. But since that game, they've kind of shored up that defense a little bit, and they've been getting after it. Obviously, they haven't played, powerhouse offenses except for the Ole Miss game, I'd say. But, I feel like, this is not your typical Bama team. We're used to the Bryce Youngs and the Mac Jones and the Tuas and we're used to the high flying offense, and this kind of going back, like we said, throwback style, run it first.
Yeah, this is going to be an
quarterback run game.
Early 2000s SEC game.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, 'cause even Max Johnson's going to have to make plays in the passing game.
yeah,
Like
no, he's like I said, we talk about Bama's defense being good. So
Mhm.
that means Max is going to have to complete some balls himself. I
Yeah,
love Evan Stewart at wide receiver. I've loved that guy since high school. He's
Little Moose.
very, very good wide receiver.
They have a good receiving core
Oh, they do. They
as a
totally
group.
do. And like I say, A&M's been after the Miami game, they've kind of found themselves too. They
Exactly.
put themselves into
Yeah,
hell. They haven't lost a game in conference yet, so this game is basically to set yourself up for
to be
who's
the
going to go
driver's
to
seat.
who's going to
Yeah.
Atlanta
Who's the driver?
because
Who's in the driver's seat?
I, I'm not allowed to look ahead, but looking ahead, you feel like A&M
I said
and Bama.
as a Gator fan, don't look ahead as a Gator fan. I ain't talking about nobody else other than Miami. I don't want to look ahead, and you as a Gator fan don't look
Oh
ahead.
man, I'm not a Gator fan. I'm an analyst. I'm an analyst on the show. I take my Gator hat off, and I'm just saying, no. I looking at Bama and A&M in this game is okay, who gets to 3-0? Who's in the driver's seat? Who do we have to play left? And you're like, does LSU scare you at all? And the answer is no defensively, obviously. And A&M still got to play Ole Miss, who Bama's already beaten. So
Week to week,
you know,
man.
I
Week to
feel
week.
like basically this is a big one to take that next step into
Mhm.
going to the West champion to head it to the ATL.
Yeah.
So speaking of West, we got to go to the East and the team who everybody's kind of saying, what's wrong with Georgia? They don't look good. They played like crap against South Carolina in the first half. Auburn should have beat them, blah, 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 blah. They've been the number one team in the country the last 2 years. What's wrong with Georgia? Where's Georgia at? They get a primetime home kickoff night game, against a Kentucky team who just shredded my boys, ran up and down the field on them. The matchup looks like it could be good. Who do you like? Why do you like it? And where do you think this one ends up? And I'll give you my breakdown after I hear
I
what you got to say.
I still like Georgia. I think Georgia struggled against Auburn last week because of the QB run game, and Thorne was able to
Peyton Thorne looked kind of
pull.
fast, actually.
No, he is fast. If you go back and watch one of those runs against Cal, you're gonna be like, "Holy, this guy's
No, I'm just saying
moving."
he looked fast. I never
Yeah,
seen. What I'm saying is I never saw that at Michigan State, so I wasn't ready for
true,
it. I guess.
true. Yeah, but I think Georgia is going to be able to stop their run game and be physical up front. Because, like I said, you don't have to worry about Leary pulling the ball and running. He
Yeah,
may
he's not
pull
quick.
it here and there and get 4 or 5 yards, like on a key 3rd and 4, where he fools the whole defense. But that's not going to be the whole game like they faced last week. Now, on the flip side, can the Georgia offense get going? Because Kentucky is going to be physical. They're going to challenge you. So Carson's going to have to make some throws. I mean, it was great to have Lad McConkey back. Can they? Bowers might be the best player in the country.
Oh,
That's not getting the
he's definitely
Heisman
one of the best.
credit.
He's definitely one of the best offensive weapons in the country for sure.
Without him, they lose last week.
Yeah, probably
And
so.
I mean, but then again, how do you not double cover? How? I don't know. Give him the Antonio Gates treatment. If I'm a
Yeah.
defensive coordinator, I'm giving him the Antonio Gates treatment and putting 2 people over him. And I'm just going to say, Carson, you got to find someone else. I don't understand why they don't do it. I get it. It's college. You only got 20 hours of practice and film and all of that in a week. But I just going forward, someone's going to eventually do it. So I could see Stoops doing it because he's a defensive, guru. But I just think Georgia's going to find a way. It's probably going to be a gritty game. It might go under that 48.5. I don't expect a lot of points to be scored unless, some kind of turnovers or Waffle House catches a punt return and returns it. The Mims kid. I don't know if you knew that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think Georgia's going to do enough to win the game unless Leary lights it up and him and the receivers get in sync and they can have a passing game. But if they don't, if they look like how they looked last week, they're not going to win the game. It could get ugly.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning towards 100%. I feel like Devin Leary has not looked good, has not gotten sync with those receivers, whether it be bad throws, drops, whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, you got a stud and Ray at running back, but I feel
load
like
up the box.
No, that's what I'm saying. This is where just look at the tape. Kirby's got the personnel to kind of shut that run game down. Your traditional style of running. Yes, I think Ray Davis can get off, but I still feel like ultimately Georgia and what they want to do and what Kirby wants to do is going to slow that run game enough to where you're saying, all right, Devin Leary is going to have to complete some balls downfield to beat us. and I don't think he can do it. And that's what Kirby's going to say. So
Yeah.
I feel like that is the formula there. Now going to Georgia, everybody, like I say, has been kind of like Georgia's offense. The biggest thing that I've noticed on Georgia is, people have been kind of down on Beck, but I'm just like, what games are y'all watching? Carson Beck has been pretty damn solid, in completion percentage, yards, third down completions. He's been pretty good. He hasn't been like, he hasn't been like,
he just hasn't lit it up.
He's not been Shedeur Sanders, but I mean, hell, he threw for 300 yards. He threw for 300 yards last week against Auburn.
Right.
It's just, I think the biggest takeaway is their lack of explosive guys on the edge.
Yes.
And their running backs haven't been as good as they've been in the past. Like that's a huge deal. I like Dewan Edwards, but he's not like, Todd Gurley and, Chubb.
The skill guys haven't looked like how they've looked the last 5 years.
Oh, for sure. Especially on the outside. Yes, you have the best player in Brock Bowers, but and it was nice seeing McConkey back in there just because he gives another element. But losing like an AD Mitchell and some of these guys at receiver the last couple of years, Rosemary Jack Saint, he's been there forever, but he's not a guy who can just scare you. So, but I think a lot of credit needs to go to Carson Beck on. I think he's going to have a good game this weekend. I think he's going to. I mean, he completed 23 of 33 for 313 last week. Yeah, he had the interception. But the other thing I noticed when I was watching the Auburn game, unlike Florida and some of these other teams, he's actually hitting some of those 3rd and 11, some of those 3rd and 9s, to convert, to extend the drive, to keep Georgia's D off the field, to move it down, to go get some points, and like I say, anytime that Georgia took one on the chin and you're like, man, Auburn's about to come out and upset these boys. Georgia came back and they fought, what do we always say? A win is a win. Find a way to get the hell out of there on the road.
Rival game. They always struggle on the plains.
That's what I'm saying. Playing out Auburn, that's a hard place to play.
Yeah.
Yes, Hugh Freeze is probably a couple years away. He doesn't have what he wants to do. And, offensively, they've been kind of a struggle.
Yeah.
They found some things that Georgia probably wasn't ready for.
The QB run game.
Exactly. So I think this is a recipe for a Georgia blowout. I think what ends up happening is we always play the game of Georgia looks so bad against Auburn. They suck. Look what Kentucky did against Florida. They're going to run for 300 yards against Georgia. We fall into that trap way too many times. And now, do I think Kentucky, if Devin Leary can, like you say, complete some balls, get a good mixture of, okay, we got Georgia on their heels on defense, we're able to run the ball, and we're complete some balls, could it then turn into a game? Sure, it definitely can. But I just feel like going on the road to Athens, night game, I think Kirby is going to get them boys jacked up. I think Kirby is going to be on their ass that they haven't played that well early in the SEC schedule against the South Carolina and Auburn last week on the road. I think Kirby is basically going to be like, this is our, hey, we're still number one type game. So like I said, that's just what I'm thinking. But Kentucky, we'll see if we're saying, hey, we were completely wrong. Kentucky is legit. Kentucky's in the driver's seat for the East, blah, 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 blah. But we'll get there when we get there. But I still feel like Georgia, a lot of people have been counting them down a little bit. So we'll see if they can show why they've been number one, why they still should be in the top 5.
Yeah.
And I think they get out of there with a win.
Like Ric Flair says, to beat a man, you got to beat the man.
Exactly.
Can you beat the man? I think Kentucky may cover the point spread, but I don't think they're going to win. I think Georgia's going to win. Yeah.
No, I think Georgia, I think it's going to be blowout fashion. And then, do they let their foot off the gas and then Kentucky get, where it's a 21-point game and then they score a late touchdown. Obviously you got the hook there. So 14, I think Georgia wins by 2 touchdowns or more. So maybe they do cover, maybe they don't with the hook might get you, but there's a couple other good matchups. We won't really dive into them, but circled on the calendar as potential nice games. That Notre Dame Louisville game looks pretty damn nice. We talked about LSU, Missouri, and then the other wild card game to me that we talked about earlier was Maryland and Ohio State. Maryland's been 5-0 going to Ohio State. It's an early kickoff.
How does Tilly and the offense move?
How good? The ball? Yeah. So like those three, I'm definitely intrigued by what we're going to see. Does LSU take another loss? Does Missouri peg another win under their cap and go 6-0? How does Notre Dame get off the mat after having those 2 bangers that they had? How good really is a 5-0 Louisville team? And in those games, I like Notre Dame. I still like Ohio State to flex on Maryland, and I like Missouri. I like Missouri at home.
Yeah. Another one is UCLA heading up to the Great Northwest to play Oregon State.
Yeah,
Can UCLA hop back into the Pac-12 race?
yeah.
And
Everybody's kind of counted them out.
Yeah, I think after watching last Friday night's game, as much as I love Oregon State going into this season just to be competitive in the Pac-12, I didn't pick them to win. I just feel like if they can't score enough points with the big boys. I think they're going to be competitive, but that offense, man, I like DJ, but they
struggled definitely. They struggled.
They struggled.
Utah. I mean, Utah's got a really good D.
Mm-hmm.
And what sucks for Utah is, like I said, Cam Rising is such a huge part to their offense. And teams now, as you've gotten this far into the season, you kind of can scheme up and game plan for their offense.
Yeah.
And Oregon State's got a pretty good D, so they kind of did a pretty good job against Utah. Utah couldn't really move the ball. That game got stale with just no offense.
It was pretty bad.
And like you said, I think Oregon State. Hell, still a big win. Obviously beating a top 10 Utah team, but going forward, where does Oregon State's offense go? How good can they get better on offense? Because their defense is pretty solid. But
I was wrong. Is Washington State UCLA?
Oh yeah. That is.
But that's still the big game because we've been talking about
UCLA's been put in the back seat. After they got their first loss, they were like rear view. You got all these other teams ahead of you. So like I say, Oregon State, they got to figure it out on offense because we just said, teams like Washington State, USC, Oregon, even Colorado, all those teams can score points.
UW. Don't forget UW.
I said Washington. I thought I said Washington. Washington, USC, Oregon, everybody.
But everybody in the Pac-12.
So they definitely got to tighten up their
for sure
offensive game plan for sure. But all right, well, I guess we'll end it on our top 10. Did we have any shuffling? Did we change up anything? Did we move anybody around? You want me to go first, huh?
You first. I got a little extra. I got a little extra to mine, you go first.
It was such controversy last week where I had one particular team ranked, and they're in the same spot for me. Damn it! So I've still got Texas number 1, Ohio State 2. That didn't change. I put Michigan in at 3 just because they've been waxing the hell out of everybody doing what they're supposed to do. I got the Noles at 4. I've got the Georgia Bulldogs sitting at 5. This is a game where I want to see where Georgia. We just talked about them.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped Georgia down where they're not as high as on the AP or the coaches poll. So this is one of those games where if Georgia goes and whacks Kentucky, then that'll show me something. And then to round out the top 10, I've got Oregon at 6, USC, Washington, the Pac-12 trio, and my closers are Penn State and Bama are my 9th and 10th ranked teams in the country.
Okay. I see you're sticking with it. Still hating on the team out west, but I'll let you and Ricky talk about that one.
We'll say that, are those wins starting to look as good? LSU, is that a good win now?
Still a good win, in my opinion. It's still a good win. Clemson's still a good win.
Against the team was ranked 116th in the country in defense.
Going into the
third loss. They're about to get their third loss. Going into the season. That's why we overrate these teams.
I get it. Who is it? Because I could say, even though I have Michigan as number 2, who has Michigan played?
Yeah, they haven't played nobody.
Exactly. So I can at least say Florida State's played.
I was going to drop
with a pulse.
I agree. I was going to drop Michigan down. I only moved them up just because they've been dominating everybody.
This is the week where it starts. I think it starts moving for me, especially in my top 3. But right now, my top 5, I still got Georgia at 1, Michigan 2, FSU 3, Texas 4, and Ohio State 5. And the back end, I go from 10 to 6 for a reason. So number 10, I got Notre Dame. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what they do. Do they stay in the top 10? Do they move out? There's a couple teams moving in there on the 11, 12, 13. I got Oregon 9, UW 8, Penn State 7. And the team I was told to bring up by our friend Cooley was USC. He's not happy with the polls. Yeah. He's not happy with the polls for them dropping. Too low? No, the polls have them at 9.
Yeah, I've got them at 7.
I have them at 6, and I kind of understand where he's coming from. It's like, I get it. You played a Colorado team you were supposed to beat, but it's still a conference game on the road at 10 a.m.
Yeah, no,
they got out of there with the W.
I love USC.
No, we both love USC in that offense of Caleb Williams. I was just asked to. about USC and why they're dropping, because his thing is, in which I agree, if it was Bama in the other place, they wouldn't have dropped the SEC school.
Yeah,
They wouldn't have moved them back. Even Florida State, they moved back the other week, which makes no sense to me. Only because you got out of Clemson with a W. That's what you're supposed to do against a team you hadn't beaten in 7 years.
Yeah.
You're punishing them for finally getting over the hump on the road. I can see if it was at home and you're like, well, you're at home, you're supposed to beat them at home. But I don't get why the pollsters dropped SC. I mean,
what's weird is in the coaches poll, they dropped from 6 to 7, and Penn State moved ahead of them, a team that we haven't talked about yet really in a while, who played like absolute dog shit in the first half against Northwestern. So, like, is that an impressive win?
No.
And then they dropped one spot from 8 to 9 in the AP, where Oregon, took a 1-spot lead on them, and Oregon played Stanford, who's god awful.
I mean, the only common denominator is the Colorado game.
Yeah, which exactly, which, like I say again, I don't necessarily think it makes sense either, per se, why you would drop a team who just beat a team who was ranked in the top 25 the previous week. I totally agree with that. But and I picked USC to win the Pac-12. I still like USC. They got a tough ass schedule throughout the rest of the stretch.
They do, and if they could come unscathed, even one loss, they still could finish in the top 4.
No, I definitely think so.
If they could lose only one game and win the Pac-12, they're going to be in the playoffs. I think that's for Oregon,
100%.
UW, or if there's a team that comes out of the Pac-12 and they win the championship with only one loss, they're going to be in there.
No, because
I still think even possibly two losses.
I think we're going to have multiple teams. I think everybody's going to have a loss. This is one of those years that
I can
not
see
that superior team. I can see everybody having one loss. So it's going to be chaos to be like, who did what, who won this game, blah, 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 blah. We'll get into all that like as the season goes on. But
shout out to our man Cooey.
My dog, like I say, we already said we were going to do like call a homeboy segment, and like I say, he said don't call them after they lose. So like I said, we need to keep on winning so we can call him up and get his personal opinion on Alex Grinch and the defense.
We'll do that after if they play. When is the Oregon game?
That's what I do. They play this week. They
got Zona this week.
Yeah, which could be an interesting game. We can call them after the Notre Dame game next week.
That might be let's do that.
We can call them. Let's do that. We can either call them before, so that maybe if they don't lose, because
before and after.
They've got, like I said, they play Arizona, who's been sneaky, kind of whatever. We'll see where that game goes. That's the late Pac-12 game. That'll be on until 2 a.m.
Pac-12 after dark.
Then they go at Notre Dame. Then they play Utah at home, at Cal. Then they close out the year with Washington at home, at Oregon, and then the rivalry game of UCLA. So, like I say, their shit's tough. So, but they're scoring 50 games. So we'll see if that defense can let the team score 49.
Yep.
But so that's our top 10. That's our show for the week. We had a lot to jam in there, a lot to cram in there from week 5. What we got going on this weekend. Like I said, there's some good games, some intriguing matchups. I think we're going to learn a lot about some teams.
Yeah.
How good does teams get off the mat? Are some of these teams a little overrated? Are some of them not as good as we thought? Like I say, this will be a good week to basically find out and tell. And like I say, it was a good breakdown. And like I said, I'm looking forward to watching the games on Saturday and seeing what happens.
Since you guys are playing Vandy, is this the hamburger and hot dogs game on the grill?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, nothing special about this game. Just throw some burgers and dogs.
Who gives a crap, right? I mean, I guess the good part is it's not at noon. It's at least a 4:00 kick. So there, I get to
the little TV.
I get to zone in and watch that, Texas OU game, and then then you got the 3:30. The Gator game will definitely be on the little TV because I'll be watching Alabama roll damn Tide against Texas A&M, and then
So here's the other dilemma. Which hat are you going to wear?
I'll probably just I'll wear my Pro Impact hat because I don't give a shit.
You're not going to wear your Alabama hat?
Oh, definitely. It'll be on the table in there, so I can
just pick it up when needed.
Throw it on, be like, roll Tide. Yeah. But yeah, no, like I say, I didn't do it at the beginning of the show. Again, like, subscribe, everybody. Appreciate all y'all listening and watching.
I'll do my shout outs next week since we got to do it at the beginning.
Hit the shout out, baby. Hit the shout out. Holler at your boys. Like I say, but we do appreciate anybody who's listening and liking and sharing. Hit that like, hit the subscribe, share the podcast, tell somebody about it if they like listening to us talk about the college football world and who's doing what, who stinks like the Gators, who's balling like the Canes and the Knowles. And like I say, we'll be again here meeting you for another edition of Talking Ball with your boys. So holler at us and we'll catch you next week, man. Peace.